So Sean asked him, and he says, it's a 10, man. This thing's huge, and it's already up there. So continue it.
Everybody recognizes that this is big. Now that the academic article is out, I think the gravitas will come to bear. And the ramifications are huge. And this is why I've called this a tsunami from Mount Ebal, because it reverberates. Do we indeed have evidence of literacy? Does this dismantle the documentary hypothesis? Because right next to Yahweh, we have El. So El Yahu side by side. And the whole basis of the documentary hypothesis is that these sources are hundreds of years apart. We have them side by side. So just think about it. All the generations of seminaries that have taught the documentary hypothesis, if this dismantles that, that's huge. So early literacy on a biblical level, an archaeological level, an anthropological and sociological level, the ramifications are big. As a believer, I think the issue is, do we have a reliable biblical text? And a lot of people have said that we don't. And I think this argues, or certainly puts the weight of evidence towards saying that we do. And I think that's important.
Okay, so you mentioned the documentary.
So before we end up getting into should we go ahead and play the how this tackles the documentary?
I'd like to say something right here. I mean, yes. even if that was true, critical Bible, the critical study of the Bible, it doesn't not hinge on El versus Yahoo, or 2 parameters, 1 parameter, or even 100 parameters. We have thousands of parameters that show all of the problems with the biblical text. I don't see that. Personally, I don't see that as problems. This is a text that was written for over several centuries by dozens of different hands, most of them anonymous. Almost all of them are really anonymous. We don't know who wrote what. And there is no, so the biblical corpus is, in many ways, the beauty of it is that it's such a human document. It is not, so many people, it is, in many ways, the Bible is a battlefield, okay, of ideas between different sects, different peoples, different generations. And that's what we do as biblical scholars. I also do some of that as well, and not just epigraphy. And what we do is to look at the document and try to understand, what came first, what part, and sometimes it's even one word. We know now from Qumran that sometimes they just changed one word, and not a paragraph, not a quote unquote chapter. But sometimes the editors just change one word because of sectarian issues. So the Bible is so complex. Pretty much any old authoritative religious text like the Rig Veda or the Avesta, these are very complex texts, very rich texts, very beautiful texts. And all of them have gone through, even Homer, right? The Homeric corpus. So much work has been done. The thing about the Bible that makes it even more so is that so many people during the time that it was redacted, edited, written, etc., people saw it as giving them identity. It actually represented their identity and their sect within Judaism. So you have all kinds of sects trying to insert here a verse, here a word, here a change even the order of chapters. Or again, chapters is a very, very recent concept,
right?
But the Bible is just full of these things, and the critical approach to Bible study does not hinge on Yahoo versus El. This is even if we allow everything that they claim, it does not show. It really does not change anything for
that's your point.
Just doesn't. Even if we allow them all of that, but that shows you something, and we just saw. Scott Stripling's website. He set out to prove the inerrancy of the Bible, and
undermine. Not only that, he's trying to undermine the notion that Yahweh and El are 2 separate deities. He's already trying to, by saying, "Look, because there's a lot that factors into this. In the same interview, he wants to push, while others date it to the 12th century, he wants to bump it back to like the 14th, 15th century BCE. It's like he wants it back there kind of toward the Hyksos in a way, which in a sense, several people who've investigated the Exodus show you destroyed the Exodus if you go that far back. So how's Joshua writing this in the 15th, 16th century? And like, there's all sorts of issues that kind of come up with what you do if you're pushing that date. But he's kind of trying to go as early as he can, say that they're literate, say that Yahweh and El are the same. It's just, the same God. He's doing all the things that would check off a contemporary theological perspective of the Bible without seeing it critically and saying, okay, we know this God El, we know this from Canaanite sources, we understand this is a different deity. We kind of have this Baal and Yahweh figure that kind of come in competition. And Baal's father was El as well, just like Yahweh. So they don't like this notion. They got to destroy this whole thing because they don't like the documentary hypothesis, and they want the validity and accuracy to be true of what they understand the Bible to be.
Well, I mean, to be honest, the documentary hypothesis has also in serious, biblical scholarship, we've already gone way beyond that. I mean, it's too simplistic in many ways.
Right.
And so, but what he was trying to, and I'll just say something really quick on this because we have other things to cover on this particular tablet, and I can talk just hours just on this point. But what he was trying to say is that the documentary hypothesis has these different documents, right? Different traditions. One of them is called Elohist, and the other one is called Yahwist, etc. The priestly Deuteronomist. And so the Yahwist and the Elohist are seen as two different documents. And he says here we see them both together. So that for him destroys, which is of course complete nonsense. But that I think that's where he was heading. There's a lot of discussion still today going on with the documentary hypothesis. But most of us have gone beyond that very simplistic view. Again, we now know that there's so much more complexity than just these 3-4 documents, right? Or whatever you want to say. Things are extremely complex. The Exodus, again, I'll try not to go too much into this, but this whole Exodus story is much later. And I'm convinced. Of course, not all of my colleagues are convinced of that, but there are very good scientific reasons through comparing it to other cultures and looking even at the vocabulary used in this story to understand that this is a much later story. So that was kind of imposed on a different narrative.